Hello everybody and welcome to the stream. I hope you all are doing good tonight. So tonight we are going to be kind of continuing our shadow mapping. I've got something that I'm currently investigating and trying to get to work. And we're just going to kind of slog our way through that and see if we can't figure it out, right? And so that is kind of what happens with game dev a lot of times, is sometimes you just run into an issue that you just have to beat your head against for a while. And so I'm going to kind of show you guys some of what that process is like with the particular issue that we're dealing with tonight. Hopefully we come to a solution. If not, I'll do my best to solve it off camera, but I'd like to come to a solution tonight, so hopefully we can accomplish that. Before I jump into that, though, I'd like to take a quick second and just thank the supporters of the channel, beginning with our partners, who are the highest tier of subscription over on Patreon and YouTube memberships. They are Arslia, Gabby Bashir, and Gerboles Inc. I'd also like to thank all the other supporters listed here on the channel. They are the other tiers of support over on Patreon and YouTube memberships, as well as Twitch subscribers. So thank you very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. I hope it goes without saying that I appreciate each and every one of you viewers, whether you're here on YouTube. We are simulcasting, so the stream is available on both. But without you guys, obviously, this stream or this project wouldn't really be possible. So thank you all very much for your support and following along and whatnot. It's greatly appreciated. Okay, so based on what I've got on the screen, you guys can probably take a guess at what we're going to be looking at tonight. So I've got some notes in here about some stuff that I've been working on, but essentially the concept is that we are trying to essentially have our shadow map be a little bit dynamic based on our view frustum. That way, no matter what we're looking at, we are receiving proper shadow mapping. And so that is kind of what we're going to go over tonight. And basically, I'll take a quick second to kind of go over it conceptually, so that we can have a visual understanding of how this is supposed to work. And this will actually lead us into the next thing that we're going to be developing too. So before I do that, let me open up handy dandy paint here. And I'm going to set the background to black. I'm going to just fill this. All right, and we'll go with the thickest line size. All right. So essentially, the way that we're going to be, or what we're going to be doing is right now we have sort of a fixed shadow map, right? So if we have some objects in the scene that are like this, right, and our light, directional light, is coming from over here, and our projection basically is over a section of the scene that's kind of like this, right? And it's fixed, it doesn't move, right? So that's all well and fine when you're building like a small renderer. That's just sort of like a, showing off a single model or maybe a couple of models, and you just kind of rotate it around it and whatever. That's all well and good for that, but for game world, we need something that's a little bit more dynamic, right? Because if we are looking at it, turn this music down, that seems a little loud to me. So if we are looking at it, say from this angle, right? Let's say that this is our camera, right? We have a view frustum from that camera that looks something like this, right? And it goes way, way off into the scene, generally out of here, but let's say for demonstration purposes, this is what our view frustum looks like, right? And so we have, sort of the far over here, we have the near here, right? And this is our perspective, right? And so we get this sort of, this cone type shape, right? And what that basically is showing us currently right now is part of this is shadow mapped, right? And then the rest does not have shadows, and that's not exactly correct, obviously. So what we need to do is, I'm actually going to, since when does paint clear to a transparent color? That's interesting. All right, let me try that again. Interesting. All right. Anyway. So, what we really need to be able to do is we have our, I'll use the same colors as I did before. We have our view frustum, right? That looks something like this. And it can be any orientation in the scene, right? I'm just kind of doing it axis aligned to simplify the explanation, right? And then let's say we've got our directional light that's coming from over here, right? What we need to do is we need to say, okay, we need to be able to fit the shadow map to include everything that the view frustum can see. So we essentially need to get the bounds of it, right? And you'll have to excuse the not to scale drawing here, right? But I think you guys can kind of get the point, right? And that kind of goes off the screen there, but I think you guys get the idea, right? And so basically to do that, we have to get the points of the frustum in world space. And once we have that, we can then generate this box here, right? And so that is what we're working on tonight. And I think it's something just small with my math that's probably wrong. And so that's the goal for tonight, is to figure out what is sort of wrong with this implementation. And I've tried a whole bunch of different things, and I'm about 90% of the way there on the implementation. I think it's just a matter of figuring out that one thing that's generating wrong. So that's kind of where we're at. Next Near, hello, welcome. Tammin, good to see you. I'm doing well. How about you? Doing pretty good. Can't complain. For those of you over on the YouTube side, I do want to remind you, actually on both sides, I want to remind you guys that this is an interactive stream. So if you guys have any questions or just want to chat, feel free to jump into the chat. And I will keep an eye on both sides and answer to the best of my ability. All right, so currently, and I will actually pull up RenderDoc and show you guys the last capture that I got. So currently, it looks a little bit something like this. Our shadow map looks a little bit like this, which is obviously wrong, right? If you look closely here, you can kind of see what we have in our scene, right? There's the car, and here's kind of the building here, right? But it looks super flat. It looks like there's not a lot of depth at all. It just seems it's like either really close. Well, I guess there is some depth difference there. It's just kind of hard to visualize, right? Because if we look at this depth here that's changing as I hover over this, we are getting a little bit. So I guess that is fine. There is a little bit of difference here. Might be hard to see. I don't know yet if we're drawing this in the right order or not either, so we'll have to figure that out as well. It might actually be flipped, but if we look at the overall shape of it, it's kind of skewed, right? So I've got to figure out why that is. Peepo Coconut, first time chatter, welcome. Welcome to the stream, good to have you here. And after fitting the orthographic projection to the frustum, will you also do frustum culling? Yeah, so we can use that same frustum to do frustum culling. And I've actually got notes in here where we're going to put that in. I have it turned off right now just to simplify it. Peepo Coconut, also, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that, and welcome. To remove excesses, yeah, essentially. Yeah, because we don't want to be obviously drawing stuff that the shadow map shouldn't be drawing. Do you remember what Vim color theme you use? Yes, it's called Adawada. I'll put it in chat. I think that's how it's spelled. I'll put that over here for the YouTube side as well. This is my NeoVim theme. Fixed Point Overflow over on YouTube. Hello. Welcome. Good evening to you as well. I hope you're doing all right. Welcome to the stream. So, basically the way that we get this is if you think about what an orthographic projection matrix is. Actually, I might bring paint back up here for a second. So if you think about what orthographic projection is, let me actually bring this guy back, right? This is what a perspective matrix looks like, projection matrix. If you think about orthographic, I'll do this in a different color here. So if you think about that, it doesn't have this conal shape to it, right? It's really just a box, is all it is. So orthographic really winds up looking something like this, right? And it can be oblong, right, where you have the far and the near, right? Whereas on perspective, you have the near and the far. But since we don't need objects to shrink as they sort of go away from the camera, we don't need this conal shape, right? We don't need that. So instead of doing perspective for that, which we might use for something like point lights, for directional lights, orthographic is the way to go. So if you think about this, all this really is a box, right? And so we really just need to generate a box. We have a min and a max for each side, right? So that's on the x-axis, and then the y-axis, which in this drawing would kind of come out towards the screen, right? And then we have the z-axis, which is here. So you'd have min and max x here. You'd have this would be the z min and the far up here, and then you would have the y min would be down, and the y max would be up, right? And so if we think about that untransformed, just generating a box is just mins and maxes. And that's all we really need for a orthographic projection matrix. So what we do here is we have a new method called frustum corner points in world space. And what this does is it loops through each axis, so x, y, and z, and we have 2 points for each axis. If you think about a cube in 3D space, you have 8 points. So those are our corners, which we have 8 of. So we just take an array here of 8 vector 4s, and we do vector 4s because we're going to do matrix multiplication, so it just makes that easier. And what we do is we just essentially shrink this to -1 to 1 space. And so we start each axis off at 0, and we only loop through each axis twice. And so we follow that all the way down. So the first iteration of this is going to say 2 times 0, which is 0, minus 1 is -1, and then 2 times x, in this case, will be 1 on the second iteration, and so that'll be 2 times 1 is 2, minus 1 is just 1. And so that gives us that min and max of 0 and 1. And for the w component, we just use 1.0 because it's a position in space, it's not a direction. And then what we do from there is we take all 4 of those corners and we divide them by the w component. I could have easily just put the w component in here, but I just hard-coded it to 1. We could also just say vector 4, 1. Maybe I'll do that. But before we actually perform this, we take this point that we've generated and we multiply it by the inverse view projection matrix, right? Which those are the other 2 things that are passed here. So this is the projection matrix that we're passing in to generate these 4 corners based off of. So this projection matrix should be the camera views projection matrix, or the camera's projection matrix, which would be perspective, and the view matrix of the camera. And so that's not of the shadow camera, but of the actual camera that's looking at the scene. And so based on these points, we can go ahead and multiply those together. We should be, and then we take that and use it to transform this generated vector by that. Then we divide it by the w component, right? And so we take those 4 corners, and in our prepare frame, we've called that here. So we pass the projection matrix as well as the view matrix. And we take all 8 of those points that are generated, and we add them together. So we take vector 3 add, and we do a vector 3 from vector 4 here. We calculate the center, and then we divide by the number of points we have, which is 8. And so the reason we do that is we're basically just taking an average of all the points, which gives us the very center of where that view matrix is. Sorry, not the view matrix, the generated projection, right? Based off of these two things that we passed, right? So now we have 8 points and a center point. And that center point winds up being what we generate our shadow camera's look at matrix based off of. So we use that as the center point here. And then for the actual location of the camera, we say take the center point and move it by the light direction. And I might have this backwards, which is why I have this multiply scalar in here. Okay. And so we generate our look at matrix based off of that. And then we come down here and we transform each one of the corners into light space to get the extents of the shape we need to generate. So we do that basically by setting all the mins to max value and all the maxes to mins. So that way when we do our min and max check in here, we can actually have something that's sane to actually start with, right? And so we loop through each one of our points and then get the min and max for each axis, rather. And we say, okay, well, if the min is truly smaller than our current min, then we use that. Otherwise, we just use the current min. Same for the max. So we do that on all 3 axes. Once we're done with that, we take the z-axis and we do a little bit of pushing and pulling on it. And that's to kind of stretch it out this way a little bit. So stretch it this way and this way, just to make it so that we capture a little bit more data, right? And in this case, I'm using just kind of a hard-coded value of 20. We'll have to adjust this a little bit and make it configurable because it'll probably vary by scene. And then once we've done that, we generate our projection matrix based off of those mins and maxes. And that should give us what we need to actually render the shadow map correctly. And then we should have no problem actually using it on the other side. So once we're at that point and we actually have this generating correctly, we should be able to move the camera around and have proper shadow maps. However, because what we're getting is this, it is not correct. We're getting something that's kind of interesting. So I'm going to run this real quick and show you guys where I'm at with this. And we will kind of continue from there. So, and I'm also putting out a lot of trace messages just so I can kind of see what's been generated, right? But you can kind of see here, as we look at this, how it's kind of being generated. Like there's the square of the building, there's the car over there. So it's just wrong, right? And I haven't fully grasped why it's wrong. Maybe I've got a negative where there should be a positive or something like that. So that's kind of what I have to figure out tonight. You got to cosplay Gabe Newell to be good at math? I mean, probably, yeah. I suck at math. It's one of my weaknesses, to be completely honest. And it's something that I have gotten better at over the years, but sometimes this stuff does trip me up still. I'm not the greatest at it for sure. But yeah, I don't, I mean, what does Gabe Newell even look like these days? I haven't seen a picture of him in a while. Oh yeah, okay. I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure his majestic beard is much more white than mine. Let's see, let's find yeah, here we go. So yeah, I'd have to get a lot more, whoops, go away. I'd have to get a lot more white in here to cosplay as him. Yeah, terrible at math too. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's one of those things that I've studied and studied and studied, and it doesn't always stick. Because like stuff like this, you don't necessarily do all the time, right? Once you kind of have it solved, you have it solved, and you don't ever really have to think about it again. So, more or less what I've been doing is just kind of looking at these points that I've generated from these mins and maxes and just trying to make them make sense. And I think I'm most of the way there, because I was, like, at one point I had a divide by zero issue and things like that. But I think at this point, we're getting pretty close. So I'm guessing that I'm zigging where I should be zagging at some point. So, what we're essentially doing is when we're generating this, we're taking in the viewport and projection, or the view and projection as is from the camera itself, which I think is what we should be doing. I did before have a inverse on this, so I could add it back, but I think it was more correct without it. So I can add that back, and then maybe see. Maybe that's all I'm missing at this point, because I found another bug with these mins and maxes as well. That was kind of tripping me up some. So let's have a look at that. And I'm just going to run this without RenderDoc to see how wrong it is, right? It looks pretty wrong. I don't see any shadows at all, actually. Interestingly enough. Oh, wait, there's some. Whoa, okay. It was definitely way more correct before. Okay, so I don't think inverting this is the key. Get this, I got tired of web dev and realized, well, I'm not getting a job anyways, might as well learn C for no reason. I mean, you never know though, right? Like if you have a personal project that you've done in C, you might wind up getting a phone call one day or a job interview just because of that. You never know. So I would say it's not for no reason. And there's also the added benefit of you have a deeper understanding learning C about how the machine works. So you could definitely apply that to other forms of dev that maybe aren't as low level, but perhaps you can apply that knowledge elsewhere, right? So I wouldn't say it's a waste at all. Definitely not. All right. Let's do a vector 4-1 for there, because that's a lot easier to read. This should divide all three components by that. Okay, that should be fine. I don't think there's any problem with this, other than maybe I'm multiplying these backwards. I suppose I could try that. I feel like it's something like that, right? Like I'm just multiplying something backwards. True, but I'm upset with myself for slacking on learning C. I hate it. It's hard for me to get in the zone. I totally understand that. Definitely understand that more than you might think. What I do is, when I'm trying to learn something, I try to set up like a dedicated environment for learning, which includes no distractions, right? So I try to only have open what I'm trying to learn, and put my phone across the room, and don't look at it, don't have the TV on, don't have any other distractions on, so that I can actually kind of focus. And I find that helps get me into the zone. If I'm doing like hardcore programming or something like that, sometimes music can help, but I find it tends to be more distracting than helpful. Disable every website imaginable. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sometimes I'll literally edit my host file to block stuff, or use it as a whitelist instead of a blacklist, right? So yeah, I've gone to that extreme before. It definitely makes sense. In Kohi, the matrix multiplication convention is projection times view. I think that's what I'm doing in all the shaders. Let me look at PBR. Let's see. Yeah, so it's projection times view times model times position. Have I looked into the Odin language at all? I have not. I don't know anything about it. Yeah, so I can't really speak on it. I've heard of it, but that's about it. I only really know by name. Is it similar to C, or is it like a Zig type of thing, or what? What's its claim to fame, more or less? Would be my question there. So yeah, I would think projection times view, and I think that's the reason I went this direction. Right? Is because of that. But let me see. I doubt this is going to fix it, but you never know. Does not look like it. Is it still doing the funky y-axis stuff? I think it is. Let's see. Yeah, we definitely don't have any shading anywhere. Oh, we've got something here. That looks completely foobar, though. It looks off again, still, yeah. Oh, interesting. That's like... You can see the square there, right? Interesting. That's definitely not right still. So I don't think that's the answer. I'll leave that there just for reference and clean it up later, though. It's most similar to C. Its purpose is an alternative to it. Well, yes, but if it's an alternative to it, like what does it offer as an alternative, right? Why did you name the variable inverse view projection? Because I was taking the inverse from it at one point, and I'm not now. And it seems to be more correct without me doing that. Although I didn't try taking the inverse of this one. So I suppose I could try that, but I don't think it's going to be right. Because the inverse completely seemed wrong to me. And obviously, if I don't wind up taking the inverse, I will rename the variable to reflect that. But yeah, I'm not thinking this is going to be right either. Actually, let's see, what have we got? Because this kind of looks like the... It's gigantic, actually. See, part of the problem is I don't actually have it turned on for the... Oh, wait, interesting. So it's actually picked it up for here. It's doing some funky stuff, for sure. Yeah, that definitely seems wrong. I think it was more accurate before, right? I think this version of it definitely seems closer to what it should be. I mean, it's shaped like a box. Yeah, it is really cool looking. Might it be helpful to make the shadow map? Might it be helpful to make the shadow map full shadow to more clearly see where it is? You mean like setting it black or whatever? Yeah, I mean, I suppose we could do that. Yeah. Let's see. Without saying K and R, what C resource would you recommend? I mean, there's a few of them. One of them that I originally used when I started learning the language was the Sam's Teach Yourself C in 24 hours. Obviously, this is not like learn it in a day, right? It's 24 cumulative hours of learning, right? But this book I thought was pretty good about going into the basics of it. So I thought that was decent. There were some stylistic things in here that, you know, of course I don't agree with, but for the most part, I agree with most of what's in here. That's probably the one I would start with these days. And obviously, K&R is popular for a reason, right? But yeah, the most valuable resource, I would say, believe it or not, is actually just using it, right? You can read books left and right all day long, and until you actually jump in and start using the language and like looking up, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? And then trying stuff and actually seeing how it works and actually debugging through the code and stepping through it and seeing how the values change and seeing all that stuff. Until you start doing that, you're not really going to get anywhere, right? You can read about theory all day long, but until you put it into practice, it's not going to be all that great. Oh, you got, oh shoot, there was an ad break. I turned around and didn't see it pop up. I think we got about 20 seconds left. I will wait a second and then re-explain that if I need to. Okay, so yeah, sorry about that, Orblish. Did you miss that due to ads? Because I kind of turned around to grab the book and then didn't see that ads had come up. So did you need me to re-explain that, or are you good? The book cover was out of the camera. Dang it. That one. Get my fingers out of the way. That's the book there. So it's kind of an old one. It's been around for a while, but I think it's pretty good. You can just negative variable. Mind blown. What do you mean negative variable? Like, I mean, on certain types, yes, you can do that. You saw the Sam's and K&R stuff. Okay, cool. All right. Okay. Joshua. Yeah, I would agree with that. So, first off, welcome, first-time chatter. Welcome to the stream. I think the hard part is not the language, 100%. Yeah, the hard part is actually thinking about the memory and the way that the data structures work and learning that aspect of it, right? It's not, learning the syntax. I mean, C is a relatively simple language, right? There's not a whole heck of a lot to learn there. That's one of the reasons I like it, is because of its simplicity, especially compared to C++. But, yeah, I would agree with that. The hard part's not the language. Chat _ first time chat. Welcome. Yeah, Sam's Teach Yourself C in 24 hours. Yeah, that's the one I used. Yep. You have to actually make something. Yes, that was kind of the second point that I was making when I think the ads came up. Is you can sit there and look at theory and you can read about all this theory and design patterns and all this other crap, right? But until you actually sit down and write some code and debug through that and step through it, most importantly, and understand how the logic that you're writing changes the data and how it manipulates memory and things like that, you're not really going to get anywhere, right? You've got to spend that time sitting there, writing things out, trying things, and don't be afraid to throw away your code and write it again. Because the more you actually write and apply, the better you're going to get, the faster you're going to get. It is the fastest way to learn any programming language, is to just use it, right? Yeah, so I hope that helps. Okay. How many times... Wait, where'd that go? How many times I got to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit? Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Fahrenheit. What's some good kind of projects for such learning? So, probably the thing that I did to actually learn programming initially is I wrote text-based games, like menu-based games, where they just run in the console. They have no graphics, no sounds, no fancy input from anything except the keyboard. And you just make like an old school text-based game that you choose things out of a menu and play the game that way, right? And it's just a series of menus, and then you program how to add different options and different things to that, and add worlds to it, and add things to it, right? And so I would say try to make a text-based game. Look up some examples of how you might make a text-based game, because there's going to be enough things in that where you're going to have to basically learn all of the aspects of the language to be able to do that. So I would say, don't. The other thing I would say is when you're first learning a language, try to steer clear of using third-party libraries. Just because you don't necessarily want to start off learning the library and the language. Learn the language first, and then learning libraries will be easy after that, right? I want to mess with Raylib stuff. Yeah, Raylib is pretty sweet. I haven't used it in an actual project, but it is a pretty respectable library for sure. Did learning C get you to understand how computers work? Assembly did that more for me than anything, but yeah, C it also goes a long way with that. And I actually started with C++. Well, technically I started with C# and then came back to C++ and then went to C. So I just kind of went further back as I went. And then I kind of learned how to read assembly along the way. I don't think I could write an entire program in assembly, but I can read it. But yeah, learning C is definitely a great way to understand how computers work. And actually, for a really good introduction to that, another book I would recommend would be Game Engine Architecture by Jason Gregory. I'll grab the book so I can show it to you real quick. Make sure I get it in camera shot this time. So this book right here is geared towards game development, but the first part of it is a primer on how computers work and C++ and memory and all that stuff. So, yeah, that's an excellent resource. How old are you? Asking for a reason. 38. Yeah, I am 38. So I've been writing programs. I started off with writing QBasic on an MS-DOS. Was it MS-DOS 5, I think? Or 6? I can't remember at this point, but it was QBasic. And I was like 7 years old at the time because I was a gigantic nerd. Still am. Were you into the progs back in the day? You mean just like programming in general? Yeah, for sure. So I've been writing code since I was about 7. Obviously, the stuff I wrote back then was absolute rubbish. But yeah, you got to start somewhere, right? So yeah, QBasic was my jam. LSR, hello. How are you doing? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing all right. Joshua, thank you for the follow. I greatly appreciate that. All right. Software tools. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that as well. Oh, the AOL AIM stuff? Yeah. Yeah, I was big into that back in the day. IRC before that. Which technically we're all using IRC right now over on Twitch because that's what Twitch chat is powered by, is IRC. You're good. Currently fighting with 2D tile map math. That would be a fun thing to implement on stream, for sure. I might do that at some point. Yeah, that's always super fun. Are you in the USA by any chance? Yes, I am. First time chat, by the way. Sensor FX, welcome. What, really even in the browser? Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You can do it in the browser. I've done it in the browser. Using JavaScript, obviously. Or maybe I wrote it in TypeScript. I can't remember. But yeah, I've done it. It's definitely possible. SensorFX, thank you for the follow and welcome. All right, so I wonder if... So we are projecting these points by our projection view that the camera is using. We get those corner points out, and then we project those once again by the shadow camera's look at matrix, which should take that projection matrix and basically orient it to the direction of the light. So I think that is going to be fine. Chat, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. Have a good rest of your stream and day. All right, it was good to see you and welcome. I appreciate the follow there, and have a good one. Okay, great. I'm making base here, then I'm completely new to all of this. Yeah, no worries, and welcome. You know, what we do here is we basically just try to explain anything to the best of our ability, you know, as we go along. So no matter what level you're at, there's always something to be learned from watching somebody do something like this, right? So welcome. I'm glad to have you here. All right. So I'm thinking, and obviously this is me just trying to figure stuff out, right? I wonder if I have... Oh, I wonder if I need to take the inverse of the view matrix. Maybe that's my problem. Although I tend to think not, but... Let's try it anyway and see what happens. I think it's literally going to be like the multiplication order of something, or I've got a negative where it should be a positive, or something stupid. Okay, so that's very interesting. That looks like... Okay. So if we look here, we've actually got kind of a similar result as to what we had before. So we can see that outline of the car there. And it should be like over here, and it looks like the whole thing is kind of cattywampus. It looks like it needs to be rotated 90 degrees and maybe flipped. What would be causing that rotation? Part of the problem is also on this model, some of the normals are messed up, right? So like these normals here are messed up, or they're just invalid. So that's kind of throwing the result a little bit. Let's see. If you're basically scaling the orthographic view to the points of the view frustum, that might not cause light to leak looking down while in a closed room. Yeah, and that... I mean, that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. There's a lot of old game source leaks on... I don't know what that... It bleated out whatever you were saying there, because it put like 3 asterisks for some reason. Mortal Kombat 2, Turok, N64, lots of Nintendo stuff. Yeah, that stuff might be way too old to use, right? To encompass the points of the view frustum. I think we're doing it mostly right. I think I've just got a component backwards or something. Oh, internetarchive.org. Yeah. I wonder why it bleated it out for some reason. Like it didn't even warn me that you tried to put a link. It just said, "Hey, there's 3 stars here now." Which is very strange. Still figuring out the bot. It does weird things sometimes. Cabs Kibs, thank you so much for the follow, and welcome to the stream. How are you doing tonight? Glad to have you here. All right. So I don't think... I'm just looking for something that's relatively obvious, but I don't think it's going to be an obvious issue. I wonder if this needs... I wonder if this needs that same bias matrix that I was using before in the shaders. I don't think so, though. Let's see, was I doing... I think I was doing that in the... Was I doing that in the vertex shader? Yeah, here it is. Right, because the y-axis is flipped and the z-range is halved. But that doesn't seem to be the problem. Right, I mean, I suppose I could do this. And see where I get with it, right? I don't know if that's going to work, though. Just did some of my C++ course, and now feeling too tired to do anything, then found this channel. Yeah, I fully understand that. Yeah, I've had a rough couple of days writing lots and lots of code for work, so it's difficult to find the energy sometimes. I get it. Just hanging out, too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes that's how I roll, too. You know, I watch other game devs on stream, and I don't really have the energy to do it myself. Sometimes that's just the way it is, right? So, I guess I can try, like, putting together this bias matrix, right? Maybe see if this helps. This is total shot in the dark, and I don't think it's going to work, but... So we'll say bias is mat for identity, and then we'll just set some of the elements, right? So we'll say bias data. We'll do 0 is equal to 0.5. And let's see, that's going to be 5. And then we need what? 11 and 12. And everything else is identity, I think. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if I take that bias, and I do that multiplication first with this guy, that might be what I need to do. So mat for mul. We want to do bias times to look at. Let's see if that works. Let me just scroll up here. Would you say free code camp is a good start? I honestly can't speak for or against it because I've never used it. So I can't tell you that, unfortunately. Yeah, I wouldn't want to shoot down something that's potentially valuable. Maybe it is. I have no idea. I learned all this stuff before any resources like that existed, right? So, in fact, that's part of the reason I'm creating this stuff is because there wasn't anything like this when I was learning this stuff. And so it's kind of the resource I wish I had when I was learning. Currently, I'm without any energy to do work on my engine, so I'm doing artistic stuff on Figma for it. Designing layout of the editor. Nice. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Got to do that at some point. Did you implement your own math library for this engine? Yes, from scratch. I found that Free Code Camp is okay-ish, but their courses are rather short and lacking in detail. I feel like a lot of those course-type things are these days. Programming work, I mean, yeah, I get what you mean, Taman. Yep. First time chat software tools. Ever looked at the id Game engines? I have, yes. I've looked through those extensively, actually. Especially the Doom 3 engine is really well written. I like it a lot. But its licensing prohibits me from obviously using any of that code unless I put it under GPL. And I don't want to limit this engine by GPL, so I can't use anything from that engine, right? Okay. So I built this. Let's see if this runs or gives me some hideous kind of result. Okay, so that's a very interesting result. Not at all what I expected. And it still doesn't look like it's projecting correctly. So I don't think that's going to be the solution. In fact, I can't even see like where the car and stuff is. What I will do really quickly is in the PBR shader. Let's see. I did have this color in here. So we take our ambient total reflectance, or we take our total reflectance, multiply that by shadow, and then add the ambient into it, right? So what I'm going to do is say vec3 color equals shadow. And that'll only show me the shadow map. So that might make it a little easier to visualize, as somebody in the chat suggested. I forget who it was. Did I foobar that code somehow? Redefinite. Oh, right. I meant to comment that first line. Right. I don't want to redefine it. I want to... Oh, now what? Let's see. What do we have here before? Oh. Derp. This should be vec3. Okay. So now all we see is the actual shadow map itself, which obviously is not right. Although I think, yeah, that kind of looks like the car there. So it's still like rotated by 90 degrees, which is very strange. So if I do away with that, let's see. Do you think you could explain what's supposed to happen, what's supposed to be happening with the math? Yeah. So more or less, what's supposed to be happening is we are, I kind of, let me find my, basically what's supposed to be happening is we have, I'm going to draw like a smaller version of this. So basically we have our camera's projection matrix, which looks like this, right? Perspective projection matrix. So this is far, that's the far clip, this is near, right? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, okay, what are the points, no matter how this is mapped in space, right? No matter what direction it's facing, get these points, right? And obviously along the y-axis as well. And then let's calculate a box that encapsulates all of those. So let's take those, transform them to the light direction, right? So we have light coming in from this way, right? And so we have a projection, an orthographic projection matrix, which is basically a box. And we need that box to be aligned to the light and then include those min and max points of that projection matrix. And what that's going to do is make sure that the shadow map actually covers everything that the projection matrix can see. And so the problem that we're having is the calculation for that box is wrong right now. So I'm just trying to figure out what that is. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Let me see here. I think the best might be open university courses. Many of them should be free to enroll in. Yeah, MIT has a lot of free courses that are just online. Actually, you don't even have to enroll. You can just watch the video. Carmack replied to my DM on Twitter, oh, that's awesome, and said that he's not as good at math as people think. People call that humble. I mean, I think he's better than he gives himself credit for, but I can believe that. If I had to pick my top 5 most well-written code bases I've seen, pretty sure Doom 3 would be in it. Absolutely, I agree. Whoa, color spelled with a U. Yeah, I do. Yep. For example, MOOC, massive online open courses made by Finnish universities. They have pretty good Python courses in Python, for example. Yeah, I could believe that too. At least the ones I know of. There may be international ones too. They released the Quake 2 remaster source code, and I was looking at that. I did have a look at that a while back, yeah. Mother Milk, first off, welcome to the stream, first time chat, and thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Hi, what editor are you using? I love your work. Also learning how to program in C. I'm still a newbie. So this editor is NeoVim. So I've got my NeoVim configuration set up to allow me to work with C, and I use that. For debugger, I still use this guy, which is VS Code, but I only use it as a debugger. I don't use it to edit my code anymore, just because I much prefer the flow of Vim. So that's what I'm using. And Quake is the reason Source Engine exists. Yep, it is. I was actually here for that part. I meant the specifics of how this relates to the matrices, operation, loops, and such. Okay, so I can kind of walk through that if you want to real quick. Wouldn't it be useful to output some values to the shader? I might have to do that, like the extents of the orthographic frustum. Yeah, I might actually wind up having to do that. That's one of the reasons I actually changed. I changed sort of the color output of the shader is to show me exactly where the shadow is, so it's not distracting me with anything else. But yeah, so basically, the way that this is supposed to work is we are taking a call to this function to get the corner points of the world space frustum, right? And so that takes in the camera's projection matrix, and then takes in the camera's view matrix. Now this is the actual camera that you use to view the scene, not the shadow map, right? So it takes those in, and it also takes an array of 8 vector 4s, which is called corners. So if we look at that in here, this is the shader code. If we look at that in here, and this, I know it says inverse view projection, but I'm not actually taking the inverse here. I think this is wrong too. Basically what we're doing is we are taking the projection and view matrix, multiplying those together, and then using that to transform the points that we generate here. So we go through each axis, and there's 2 cycles of the loop for each. So it starts at 0, it does 0 and 1. This transforms X, Y, and Z into -1 and 1 respectively. So this is just a way to do that. And then the W, since it's a position, uses 1.0. We then take that point that's generated, and we transform it by the view and projection matrices multiplied together. We then take that and do a W component division, which since it's 1, we just do a vector 1 division on that. And then all of those corners are set up to give us the corner points of that matrix that I showed you on the screen. So it's, where is it? So it gives us the world coordinates of these guys, right? These guys. And then if you think about it 3D, there's another set of 4 there, right? We have ads. So I'm going to break for ads, and then I'll continue the discussion after we get back from ads. I'm going to use this for a second to take a quick drink. So for those of you who are new and can still hear me, I like to pause the stream when ads are up so that you guys don't miss explanations like you did last time and I missed the ad break. So those of you over on the YouTube side, you may or may not see ads. Yeah, that is the reason we do that, right? Because we don't want to have an explanation be missed, right? So we've got about 40 seconds left, and then we'll get back to the code. So just bear with me here. I like to obviously respect the viewers that have ads because not everybody gets them, but those of you who do, it'd be terrible to miss stuff, especially stuff that's technical, right? So got about 13 seconds. All right, and ads are dead. We are back. What editor am I using? Over on the YouTube side, I'm using NeoVim. Wait, the math doesn't make sense. -1 to +1 range is homogeneous clip space. If you want to get the corners in world space, you need to multiply it by the inverse projection and the inverse view. The inverse yeah, which was probably the reason that I had this initially. Right? But you're saying just use X and Y as is? Is that what you mean, Taman? I could be, like I said, I could be completely off on this, but you need the inverse. But maybe do it separate. I'm not sure what you mean. You're saying I need the inverse of these two independently instead of doing it all in one shot? Is that what you mean? Inverse projection multiplied by the range inverse view multiply again. Inverse projection multiply by the range inverse view multiply again. So you're saying get the inverse of the projection, multiply it by this, then take the inverse of the view and multiply it by it again? And maybe not do this? Or at least, like maybe that's screwing it up too. Maybe I can try it, right? I would have thought though that doing this here would have solved that, but maybe not. You might be right. Like I said, I'm not the best at this stuff, right? So, all right. So let's do. Let me try something real quick, and then I'm going to try that. Because I think I know what you mean. Alright, where's my debugger? Okay, yeah, that's completely wrong, and I'm not actually surprised about that. I was just curious. Whoa. That's pretty sweet, huh? Yeah, that's obviously wrong. Okay. Alright, so your suggestion is to... Well, wouldn't that be equivalent to doing this? Right? If I did that and then multiplied those two together and then multiplied them by this, that should be equivalent, I would think. No, you don't think so? You're probably right. Like I said, I'm kind of terrible at this stuff. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, okay, so this is kind of the result I was getting before. And the shadow map is like way stretched out, which is kind of actually what I expect given the clip. The far clipping plane is like 4,000, I think. Inverse view times inverse projection. That is what I'm doing. Oh, no, I have it backwards. You're right. Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. I forgot to flip them around. So, interestingly... What the heck? Okay. Yeah, that ain't right. This is the reality of game dev, folks. Sometimes you just have stuff like this that just doesn't work, right? Yeah, because in theory, like, this should be... This should be the same thing as the opposite of this. Right? Like that should be functionally equivalent to this. And a heck of a lot cheaper to actually do versus inverse twice. That should give me the same result. This stuff always mixes me up for sure. All right. So, yeah, see, these are all... Yeah, that's not right. It does give me the same result at least, though, which is kind of what I expected. So this was... I thought this was necessary to divide by this, right? That's the W division, isn't it? So I can't imagine that you wouldn't need that. Because I would think that you would need... Maybe you don't. Right? So you're thinking get rid of that, and maybe that'll do it? This song is basically describing how my brain is working at the moment. Did that actually build successfully? Because it looks exactly the same to me. No. Yeah, that's completely what is going on here. Because I don't see... Let me take a look at what render doc is actually giving me. That might actually help. So if I take a capture of this, take a look at the raycasting code, it's basically the same operation. That's true, actually. That's a good point. So if I go to texture viewer, go to the shadow map pass, and I'm just going to go to the end of it. So everything should be drawn by that point. A whole lot of nothing, which explains why I'm not getting anything visible. So what you're referencing is, let's see, where did I put that? I think it might have been in here too. Oh, it might have been in Geometry 3D. Raycast disk. Oriented extents. I think this is what I need. So... we have the extents, and then we do... we just take the inverse and then translate these points by that. Take the inverse of the model and translate these points by that. And then do the axis-aligned bounding check. Because that should undo the transformation, which is what I'm doing. And then we transform the new point by the model matrix. So I would transform the... yeah, because this transformation should be transformed here by the lookat matrix. Because we basically want to get the min-max points so that we know how big to generate that box. And then transform it by the shadow camera. That should be what we need. Oh, let me see the message you sent. Where is it? Oh yeah, okay. I've seen this image somewhere before. Yeah, so we should just basically need... let me see if I can bring this image over to... so this is the image he sent me, by the way. Let's see. Really quick over on the YouTube side. Hello, please tell me where I should use render subpasses and where I should use multiple passes. Then does it make sense to use a separate frame buffer for individual passes and how to combine it? That's kind of a loaded question, but subpasses can be used for things that can all be done to the same render target. Although I still tend to like not use subpasses as much. I tend to use just full render passes because that's kind of the way that most things work. Most other, like OpenGL for example, kind of works. So as far as like different frame buffers, like you should only use different frame buffers if you have different render targets that you're rendering to. So if you're rendering to the same render target, you can share those frame buffers across render passes. The only time you would need to change it is if you're doing something like rendering to a separate depth map or a separate color buffer or something like that that isn't your main frame buffer, right? Dom Novato, thank you for the follow. Can I share the playlist link? So there is no playlist per se. It is actually the Heartbound. I'll just do a. It's the Heartbound OST. So this is a game that is in development by Pirate Software, and he has allowed me to use it on stream. I'll link it over here on YouTube as well. And so you can pick up the OST from that link there if you wanted to go ahead and get that. But yeah, that's where the music is from. All right, so yeah, the -1 to +1 range is the same is this box. Yeah. So we have projection. Right, which is this. This is the divide by W, X, Y, Z over W. Which is, I guess, actually going this, so I wouldn't need to do... It's Lucid Waves. Thank you for the follow and welcome. Hope you're doing well tonight. Let's see. So I think inverse projection matrix, inverse view matrix. So this is all taking me to local space, with the exception of this. So it's world space is here. So I guess I technically don't need this step, right? It's really just... Well, wait a minute. So to undo the projection matrix, I would have to start here. Perspective division is for this. So since I'm dealing with perspective projection matrix, I don't have to do this way. So I should be able to take inverse projection matrix, inverse view matrix, or the inverse of those combined, and get this. This is what I'm getting from this. Santa pies. All right, so... Oh, wait a minute. We're doing a vector 4 or vector 3 transform on this, not a multiply. Maybe that's what I need to use. Right, because if we do... So this does vector times matrix and the dot product of that all the way across. What does... I think mat4 molvec3 does the opposite. well, I guess molvec4, right? No. That's the same operation. Unless I'm missing something here. So... yeah, this is the same operation, except, obviously... well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I have both? What was I thinking here? Oh wait, I'm looking at the same thing. Oh, what a dumbass. I want, vec3 transform. No, this is not the same thing. This could explain it, actually. This is not the same thing at all. That might be part of the problem. I should probably be using vector3 transform instead. Okay. So... I'm throwing away the vector4 component anyways, so let me try this. And then do vec3 transform and change this to 3. Too few arguments in function call. Do I have these backwards? Oh, right. This wants to know what W is. Okay, so in this case it's 1.0. And then I think I have to reverse these arguments. Right. And oh, and W is supposed to be here. Okay. Okay. Did I get that right finally? Expected expression. What did I miss here? So we have a vector 3, the W. Oh. Extra comma there. Okay. So if I go to this, come down here and let's see, where was that function? This one. So change this to a 3. Which probably makes more sense anyway. Let's see. So we have corners. Then I don't need to do this. Okay, so we can take the center. That should be fine. And then this should be vec3 transform. I think I figured out what the issue is. I think my math function is actually wrong. And I think it's doing column-based instead of row-based. So this needs to be... And I think this one is the one that works correctly. And I think that's why my ray tracing, or my ray casting rather, works and this one doesn't. What's the small view window for functions? Is that a plugin for NeoVim? Yeah, it is. It's the language server that I have, so I can hit Shift K and see like definitions of things. Or see, it's like hovering over something in VS Code is basically what it is. Can I ask why you don't use CGLM? Because this was supposed to be basically a learning exercise where we build everything from scratch. And so that we're trying to do that as much as possible. Which obviously comes with some issues. Occasionally when I get like a math function wrong or something like that. Obviously that's an issue. It takes a while to trace down sometimes, but that's part of the learning process, right? So this is designed to be like an educational type of resource. So one of the things that I wanted to do to keep this somewhat realistic is to show you guys all the struggles and all the things that I run into along the way. And how we try to actually figure out and work through those things, right? So that's more or less what we're doing here. Okay. So, did I miss anything here? We have transform corner. I don't think I have to update any of that. I think I got everything. All right, let's try debugging. Okay, so let's see, what are we dealing with here? We still might be off on an axis here. So probably what I need to do is take a look at what's being generated and go from there. Pretty sure that's the car right there. So I think... Do we just maybe have something inverted that shouldn't be? That's possible. Let's see. Are we... Well, first of all, I think this needs to be negative. I think we need to scale the light direction negatively. Have you used AVX 256 512 instructions to speed up the math stuff? That sounds fun. I have not yet, but it is on the roadmap to do. SIMD is definitely one of those things we're going to be tackling, for sure. Let me just run this way real quick and see if we get... See what we get. SIMD is on the roadmap, 100%. Okay, so that didn't do it. Just kind of gave us the opposite there. Which is kind of to be expected. So... Did we do anything weird in here? I don't think so. I don't believe we have. I think everything we've done there makes sense. Maybe try with the division. This is where hot reloading would be very useful. Yes, it would be. If only the engine actually worked that way. Yeah, 100% agree. It would be very useful right about now. I should probably prioritize that working at some point. Okay. So... you try with this. This is going to be vector 3 division by vector 3, 1. Just for the sake of it, yeah, exactly. Be deeply funny if that's all it is at this point. Something tells me that's probably not, but might as well try it. So that is interesting. All right, let me take a render with a render doc so I can see what that shadow map actually looks like. So I'm just going to do it from the default position because that makes it the easiest to compare, right? So our light should be coming from up in this direction. All right, so well, that's definitely not right. Okay, so this last thing is the terrain. Oh wait, no, it's not the terrain. It's actually part of the building. I think it might be the rooftop, actually, which is just getting drawn over top of it. So it's almost like the projection is just way, 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 way zoomed in. Let me see what the mesh viewer looks like. So that's interesting. Oh, okay. So what are we? Yeah, that is the ceiling mesh. So that's what we're seeing here. So it looks more or less like it's the right angle. I'm guessing maybe it's just the amount of zoom, more or less, is wrong. What is the pipeline states? Let's take a look at the matrix here. I mean, I don't see anything that looks too alarming, right? But like, by Googling, I think you will still need to do the perspective division. So vec4 points would be generated with the inverse matrices and corners I equals points divided by W. That's basically what I had before. Right, so like if this, I'm dealing with a vector 3 here, assuming kind of behind the scenes that the fourth component of that is 1, right? That's what this assumes, right? So this transformation just plugs 1 in as the W component. Yeah, the division is useless, exactly. Which is why. Yeah, I do need a vector 4 for this. Yeah, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, why was I doing that? What was I thinking? Okay. Do I have a... The thing is, like, I've used this elsewhere and I know it works. But yeah, this... This is completely pointless. I could switch it back to vector 4s, but I don't know that that's going to give me what I need, because ultimately I drop the W component anyway. But let me try it. So, can I not? Wait, I don't need to redo it, undo that far. Projection view, okay. This should be point. You know what? I really need a... Like, I don't have a constructor that can just do that, and I think I need to make one. Alright, so maybe I do a divide scalar. Oops. What did I... There we go. Like, I have a multiply scalar. I should have a divide scalar too. That way I can just do F32 scalar, and then that. So that way I can do scalar, drop this, and do that. Which means this needs to be changed back to a vector 4. And over here, these need to be changed back to vector 4. So we have that. And then, oops, vec 3 from vec 4. And then there was one more place down here I had to do that. Did I do... This might also be backwards. I might need to do that backwards. So let me do mat 4 mul vec 4. Remove this. Wait. Is that the backwards one? No, I need... Yeah. I might be using the wrong one here, I'm not sure. I might have to reverse this. Okay. This needs to be vector 4 as well. And the corners would be all divided by W. Yes. So I just basically just added this divide scalar that'll accomplish the same thing. Although I wouldn't want to divide W by W. That might be wrong. Let me see if that actually screws things up as well, because that might actually be wrong as well. Okay. That's a vastly different result. Yeah, it's a point. That was kind of why I was thinking a scalar would probably be the best way to do it, right? So mat4 mol vec4. Do I have? I don't have a transform on that. So what if I do? After you do the inverse, you get... Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely had that wrong before, for sure. Which this should be correct now. I'm wondering if I should use this version instead. Right, and then kill that one. And maybe do the same thing in here. Because I think I had the other one here before. Vec4, mol, mat4. And then... this. Like I said, I know once we figure this out, like, we probably won't ever have to look at this again, quite honestly. Well, that's absolutely no different. So that's neat. All right, let's see what old render dot gives us. It's gonna be something stupid. I know it. Almost always is. Okay. Are we looking the wrong direction? LSR, you just figured out the issue with your project? That's awesome. I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. I think I'm close. Something obvious when you realize what it was? Yeah, I think that's going to be a similar situation here. I think it's going to be something obvious. Let's launch. Yeah, that's definitely not. That's got to be a pretty extreme projection matrix. The car is in the correct place. I mean, kind of, yeah. But I don't know if it's actually like it was before, yeah. Whoa. Okay. That's, as I cross the threshold of the x-axis, it's doing that. I think what that means is that my fragment shader is projecting the map correctly, but the map itself is wrong. Which makes sense because I haven't changed that. Oh shoot, I didn't take a capture. Dang it. So let's have a look at the shadow map pass again. I'll bet we don't get much of anything. Yeah, see, it's like way zoomed in or something. What is it actually? It's like one thing gets rendered and it covers the entire... that right there. Whatever that is. And it's so large I can't even tell what it is. It's like this is way zoomed in, like the Z-axis has everything completely squished. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're close. So we should have... So we're doing projection times view. Taking the inverse of that, I think that's correct. Then we're taking the... performs V times M. That should probably be... that should probably be M times V. Right? Because that should be M times V. This doesn't look like M times V to me, though. That also looks like V times M. Did I really get that wrong? Oops, not there. Did I really? Map 4, mol vec 4. So this was in the right spot before. But I think this function's actually wrong. Because this is still doing V times M, not the other way around. I mean, here they are right next to each other. It is, yeah. Yep, that is correct. Okay, I was looking at these indices and thinking they were the same, but they're not. Okay, so it's not that. But it should be m times v. So I should be using this one instead. Alright, so that at least was wrong. Did we... Okay, so I'm still not negative scaling that light direction, which might also be wrong. That looks like the same result as before. And I don't think changing that is going to help, but I'm pretty sure this should be negative light direction anyway. Or should it? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of, because I'm making the look at matrix, right? Which already has to have these two things reversed. Right, so it should be instead of the I being first, right, or the position, as you might call it, we're taking the position as the center point and then adding the light direction to that, essentially, right? And then this here is the direction. So that should kind of give us the inverse, which I think is right. It still can't decide exactly. Yeah. It just feels wrong to have it the other way around. It feels like it should be the reverse of that, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Wouldn't be the first time even on this stream, for sure. Alright, let's launch a new. I definitely feel like we were closer earlier. This just feels completely wrong. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing getting rendered here at all. Which could be because we have the view direction wrong, so I guess let me change that back. But I don't think that's it. So let's do a new one again. Yeah, it's just literally giving me the opposite result of what I had a minute ago. Which I'll bet is still foobar when I cross over the x-axis. Yep. By the way, guys, if you ever suffer from imposter syndrome, know that no matter how much experience you have, you will run into issues like this that will make you feel absolutely stupid. So don't feel like you're alone on that ever. Because I've been doing this for a lot of years, and I've solved this problem before, and I still can't think of how to do it. And of course, because it's Vulkan versus OpenGL, everything's a little bit different. what did I have here that was... Right, at one point I wasn't taking the inverse, and I feel like that was closer, which seems wrong. Of course, now it's completely wrong. Whoa, wait a minute. Where was that? There's the car right there. I wonder if it's... So there was another thing I was playing around with too, which was... this. Thinking maybe the handedness of my orthographic projection matrix is wrong. So I was trying it in the other orientation for a bit, which of course inverts the UI and everything else. But I wonder if this is it. Can I draw debug lines to the corners of the frustum? Yeah, I may have to wind up honestly doing that so I can visualize where the heck it is. Of course, that's also going to get tricky because as I move around the camera, that's also going to change, but maybe what we have to do. So don't be alarmed. Because I've changed this, all of our orthographic projection matrices are basically backwards now. But I'm wondering if maybe the handedness of this was just wrong. Wow, it gives me the exact same result. That's fascinating. Okay. So I'll have to create some debug geometry, I guess. To try and figure this out. Let me undo this. Let's see. I'm pretty sure I have... So I think I can just do this. I don't want to recreate them every time. I don't want to do that every time, so I should probably just do... let me think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need 12 of them. I mean, I suppose I could get away with just 8, but I'll do 12. Or... Actually, I don't even need that. I could use a debug box, actually. Let's do that. And then set the extents of it. And I can do this, let's see, when we're standing up. Initialize. Could swear I've got some in here that are being loaded already. I guess our UI stuff, right? I could do it here. we have ads. So I'm not doing anything super interesting. I'm just coming through here and setting up the debug box. This is all stuff we've seen on stream before, so I'm not really going to worry about it. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is just set this to to 1 as far as the size goes. I should probably add this to the state object. Let's call this debug box 3D has an incomplete type. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to include that temporarily. Yeah, that's fine. Debug box 3D. Okay. And ads are dead. So we are back. Alright, so I've included debug box 3D, came down here and stuck one of these in our state object. And then instead of test box here, we can say the address of what was it, project box, or projection box. I'm gonna need that a few more times, so I'm gonna copy pasta that. Let's actually just do that, and then I can repeat the action. Right there, right there. Okay. So the next thing we can do is take this section of code and go back to prepare frame. And once we have our points generated, you can put that right here. And I'll come back to that in just a second because there was one more thing I need to do, which is we need to, okay, create, initialize, and load. All right, that's done. It's probably gonna bleat at us for not unloading that, but whatever, it's a debug shape, who cares? It's only temporary anyway. All right, so ext min is going to be min x, min y, min z. And this is going to be max x, max y, max z. We'll go ahead and set the extents on that, and then we'll also see, how do we set, I guess we could set the transform. Let me think about how I want to do this. We need to set the transform to the direction. Well, actually, no. This should be, the transform should be 0, 0, 0 because the min and max should give us everything that we need. So actually, I don't think we have to set that. We should be fine to leave it as is. Let's build that and see what happens. I think that's going to wind up being really small. Let's see. Unguarded header. Oh no. Really? New mistake. If that one doesn't have it, this one probably also doesn't. Oh, that one did have it. Okay. Sakellos, hello, welcome. How are you doing tonight? Doing well, I hope. Just trying to run this and see if it blows up hideously. And not so far. Alright, now. We can see our... Wow, okay. Look at that matrix business right there. That explains a lot, actually. Look at how that's changing. Let me make that something other than white. Let's see. Let's change this to... Let's just change it to red. I don't think we have anything else that... Well... Magenta, actually. All right. DEFCON 201 Live, thank you for the follow and welcome. How are you doing tonight? Doing well, I hope. All right, let's run this. All right, so, oh, it still didn't change the color, strangely. Did I forget to save it or something? Yeah, and as I go this way, it like inverts and snaps around weirdly. That explains a lot. So something I'm doing here is just completely wrong with that. DEFCON 201 Live, thank you for the raid. Appreciate that. How are you doing tonight? Okay. This is supposed to be... Oh, I know what it is. That's not the color, that's the size, you dingus. I believe. Yes. There's another thing I have to do for that, which is... Debug, box 3D, color set. Address of state, projection box, and then we'll say vec4 color. We're gonna go with magenta on this one, right? So 1.0 and full alpha. Try that one more time so we can actually, maybe you guys can see it a little easier, because I can barely see it here on my screen, so I'm sure it's probably not very easy for you guys to see. There we go. Okay. So it's like doing a whole stretch and squash thing, which is completely wrong. So I wonder, let me put this back to the way I had it, which is mat for inverse. what should it look like? So it should basically be, I should basically only be able to see like one side of it, essentially. Because if we go back to our paint here, actually I should either see one side of it or maybe two in a corner, potentially, depending on angles and such. Like if it's aligned to this, I'll only see it, see one side of it. But I should basically either be able to see one or two sides, just a corner like that off in the distance. And technically speaking, if this is my clipping plane, I may not actually see that at all. Theoretically, because it should clip past that, technically. But the fact that I'm seeing it like stretch and squash in front of me, that's just completely wrong. So I suppose what I might have to do to debug it is try aligning it using like maybe a different camera, essentially, like create another camera in the scene, one that I can physically look at with this one and manipulate around it and whatnot and see what the heck is going on. Because yeah, this is very wrong, and it looks like it's really close, but it's so close but so far. So let me think here. I'm getting in the center point of the view frustum after I create these points. I'm still not entirely convinced that this look at matrix is even correct either. But whatever this lookup matrix should be, that's what we should transform these points by, for sure. Because I don't see any other way that it's going to properly work. These are all correct. So it's either something we're doing here or something that we're doing here. I'm still convinced this should be negative. All right. So I have a feeling I'm not going to quite get this figured out tonight, unfortunately. Unless something just comes to me like at the last minute. Well, now this is interesting though. So I don't see the frustum at all, which is actually what I expect. That is what I expect, technically speaking. When we think about this, like this guy is our far clipping plane, right? which means that we won't see this. Well, let me choose a different color here. We won't see this, and we won't see this. And we won't see any of this stuff because it's behind us, right? Or to the side. Because the whole idea is this is supposed to encompass that whole thing. So I think that does actually make sense. It at least kind of seems to make sense, unless it's like completely generating behind us or something. So if that is correct, yeah, exactly. I'm going to need a second camera to debug this for sure. Because now I can't see because of the clipping plane is doing its job. Okay. All right, so let me do this then. I'm going to... I'm going to position a camera down here. And I don't have the tools to do this the easy way, so I've got to do it the hard way, right? So I'm basically going to put a camera looking smack dab at this car. And so I'm going to need... Oops. Let's see. Actually, I need initialize. And I think I actually have a second camera for this. If I remember correctly, I have a second viewport and a second camera that I'm actually not using at the moment. So you just use that to my advantage, right? Because we were using that for the whole dual view thing, but I don't actually have that at the moment. So I think... Do we not create the cameras here? So there's the viewport, which I guess I technically don't need. World camera 2. Okay, so I do have a world camera 2. Here we go. So let's see. What I need to do from this is get my position and rotation here. So I've got my position and rotation here. So I'm just gonna move this off camera real quick so I can retype that here. So let's see, 5.8. Let's go with 5.83. 4.35. And then 18.68. We'll just round those numbers there. And then as far as the rotation goes, we have negative 29.43. Negative 29.43. And then negative 42.41. Right, and that will give us the positioning for that. And then when I generate that, I could do it based off of the view of this camera, and I could just use the same projection matrix, and I should be good. So let's go down here to prepare frame. And let's see. So I'm going to copy this. Whoops, what did I do? Okay. I'm still going to use the world viewports. I'm just going to use the world camera 2 view matrix. And that should actually be all I have to do, I think. All right, so what I probably am going to have to do is also generate... Oops, I'm still running the application. I'm probably also going to have to generate some lines to give me the view frustum, which is going to take a little bit longer. I just want to see if this actually works the way that I think it should first. Can you also draw rays with the light direction? So I actually am drawing one, but it's at the origin of the scene. So let me go in here. So this line that you see right here, this magenta line, is actually the inverse of the light direction coming out of the scene. So that's what that is. Sorry, not that one. This one right here. That one right there. That's the light direction right there. All right. Interestingly, I don't see a box. This did build successfully, right? Yep, it did. So we should be able to use the same projection. We're using the view matrix of the world camera 2. Oh, you know what? That probably isn't getting updated because I think you have to actually use this. That's already a pointer, isn't it? All right, so let me do mat4 view equals this. Because this will actually recalculate it, which I don't think was being done. Still do not see it. Where is it being generated? Is it in here at the origin? Yep, it is. Okay. Which is pretty consistent with what I'm seeing here. So that should actually be translated by the look at matrix. To actually see where it winds up covering. Okay, so let me think about this for a second. So the way that we should do that, we have this state X form. I think I can get away with just doing this. Shadow camera look at. I think that should give me what I need. And then I don't think I really need any other translation than that. That should be good. No, I'm still thinking it's probably going to be here in the center of the scene. Yeah, that didn't transform at all, did it? Oh, maybe because I didn't... Maybe I need to set that. I'm kind of hacking the way the transform works here, and I'm not sure that that's sort of the valid way to do it. Okay. It's still not transformed. So definitely found the problem. So we did set world 2. We set the position, set the rotation. It's just like that's not even happening at all. Yeah, this is the only... If one is not found, it's created and returned. Okay, I thought so. So it should be creating that. So I guess let me run this one more time. We have ads. We've got about 8 seconds left on ads. Alright, ads are dead. So I'm going to set a breakpoint here where we're getting the camera view, and I just want to see if it's actually generating correctly the first time around. So we'll go ahead and pull this down here, load a scene. So, okay, it says it's dirty, which makes sense because we set the rotation and position, right? So we have a rotation matrix here. Okay. All right. Our translation matrix here. Those look like the points we set. Okay. We multiply them together, grab the inverse of that, and return the matrix. Otherwise, it just returns the cached version of the matrix. Okay. So that all seems fine. What's interesting to me is the center of this. So our points are going to be these points seem really small to me. For being world points, they seem really, really small. I would expect them to be big. And they're just not. So I think something that we're doing there is definitely wrong. So I think that is probably, I think that's probably where I'm going to leave it for tonight, because I have work in the morning and I am dead tired. So let me see who is online, who I can raid. Let's have a look. I think instead of raiding another dev channel, I think for tonight I'm going to raid ferrets again. Namely because there's not a lot of game dev going on right now that I see. I mean, there's some, but I think I'm going to raid the ferrets tonight because, like I said, I am really tired. And we'll choose somebody else to raid tomorrow night. So for those of you who aren't aware, the channel that we like to raid here a lot is Ferret Software, because it's a ferret rescue. X606, thank you for the follow, I appreciate that. It's a ferret rescue run by Pirate Software, who's another game dev on here, and basically all the ad revenue alone is enough to sustain the whole operation. So he takes ferrets that are in medical, need medical attention, basically that are on the brink of being put down or just dying, and he rehabilitates them and gives them a permanent home. And I think he's up to 20 of them right now. And it's a really good cause, and I like to support that any way that I can. So I'm going to be rating that channel. Before I do, though, I will drop all the social spam here in the Twitch chat. Over on the YouTube side, I think all of my links to my various social places are in the profile itself. So if you wouldn't mind dropping a follow there, as well as YouTube and Twitch, subscribe / follow. I'd greatly appreciate it. I'm trying to grow the channel and reach a wider audience, right? So I hope you guys like what we're doing here, and we're going to be back tomorrow night. And tomorrow night, come hell or high water, we're going to solve this, right? So we'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start that raid now. Arcturus, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. And yeah, there we go. Okay, so the raid is started. And we'll catch you guys tomorrow when we come back at 9 p.m. ish Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, cool. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time. Over on the YouTube side, sorry I don't have a way to raid for you guys, so we'll have to just, we'll pick up next time. But thank you guys. I appreciate it.